This interview is brought to you in association with Rabobank.
Since 2006, New Zealand company Dairy Solutions has been involved in a breeding program developing heat-tolerant breeds for tropical pastoral farming systems. In 2014, I spoke with Chief Executive of Dairy Solutions, Derek Fairweather, and he's with me now to discuss progress of this breeding program. Derek, welcome.
Hi, Roger. Good to talk.
Yeah, it's been a while. Derek, when we last spoke, we talked about the identification of the slick locust, or that's the set of genes out of Centerpole breed. Can you just take us back a little bit? Centerpole breed, tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about the slick locust.
The Centerpole was developed in the Caribbean, and it was a dual-purpose animal, so it was part dairy, part beef, and very much been selected through time for heat tolerance, tick resistance, and pasture performance. So it has all those sort of similarities, I guess, to the things that we as a New Zealand grass-based system identify with. So the breed's not a huge breed, and we've seen some of the crossbreeds between the Centerpole and dairy animals, and sort of recognised that was how you could improve the dairy component and the dairy performance, but still keep some of those heat and tick resistant characteristics of the Centerpole.
Now, we're talking dairy animals, Taurus Indicus. Can we just go through that? This is important as we tell the story of the genetics here.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, a lot of the tropical regions of the world get their tropical robustness from the Indicus. And an Indicus animal has a hump on its back, and it's a really tough and robust animal, but there's a lot of negative traits in terms of milkability, so lactation persistency, behaviour, late maturing. So there's quite a few negative things that come with the robustness and the survival benefit you get. So our composite animal, our Kiwi Poll, is actually 100% Taurus. So it has that European milkability, but we've also managed to keep the heat tolerance. And it looks like the science is supporting that the heat tolerance of this slick locust is about the same as the Indicus breed. So the farmers in the tropics are actually not going backwards at all by swapping from Indicus to Taurus, but they're getting a lot of milk benefit.
Draw me a picture of a Kiwi Poll. What does she look like?
Well, the ones we've got now look very much like your mainstream breed. So we've got American Holstein that look very much like an American Holstein, and Jersey that look just like a Jersey, and we've got crossbreeds that look just like a crossbreed. What's different is that they don't have any hair. So phenotypically, you've got an animal that looks, and is essentially, we're down to 15/16, so there's only 1/16 Centerpole left in them. So they just look like a normal dairy cow for each of those sort of three different breeds, but they've got no hair, they're slick.
And their traits, highly resistant to ticks, good gestation length?
Yeah, they're very much the same as, anything you get out of an American Holstein,
Yep.
Or a Kiwi Cross or a Jersey, but they have this heat tolerance, and it looks like the tick resistance is probably more about the hair length than the genetics. So because they're short hair, the ticks struggle with fastening to them the same as they do in an Indicus. They're short hair and shiny, and it's probably more about the hair than it is about the genetics.
Right. Okay.
On the ticks.
Yep. Now, and their productive capacity, and bearing in mind the environments that they come from?
Well, look, in New Zealand we've been milking them here now for 6 years, and there's very little difference between in their milk production versus a normal Taurus animal, so we've seen no drop-off in their genetic potential. So it depends a little bit on what actual environment they end up in. Some of these tropical environments are pretty rugged, so they'll definitely have a dampening in their performance, like any cow will under heat stress. But their performance is, significantly better than a non-slick animal. So it depends a little bit on how rugged that environment is.
And where are your genetics going at the current time?
Venezuela, Philippines, America, and a big hub here in New Zealand, but that's not that relevant, I guess.
Okay, so some of those countries have very different systems that match their environment and their infrastructure and the people and everything else.
Yeah.
How hard is it for you to keep track of their performance in those situations?
America and Australia are not too bad because they've got modern herd testing and herd recording, but some of these countries are actually pretty tough to keep track of daughter performance, and we're working pretty hard on building a system to support the genetics so that we can actually prove daughter performance and give good efficacy data along with the genetics. We don't want to just be selling something that we don't know factually performs. And the science looks like it, but we'd like to have thousands and thousands of daughter proofs so that farmers have real confidence they are buying a really good animal.
Yeah, sure. I was surprised at how big the market is. So something like 270 odd million cows producing in what could be called tropical regions. I had no idea it was quite that big, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's enormous.
Yeah.
The traditional tourist parts of the world are small by comparison, but sort of the adoption of artificial insemination for those 270 million cows is not so big. So there's a lot of work to do to get them away from natural breeding and be able to achieve the genetic gains they can through using artificial breeding. So there's a big market, but there's some other things you've got to do along with it to get the adoption.
Okay. Now, are these animals any better suited to perform any differently in a cut and carry or a grain-based environment versus being on pasture?
Yeah, definitely. We've got different threads to our breeding program. So we've got some of these markets, they are feedlots. So we need a feedlot animal. So we've developed a whole bloodline around the American Holstein. So we have some very high merit US Holstein slick animals for that purpose, and then we've got some high merit Kiwi crossbreeds for pastures.
Right. And what about the makeup of the milk? How different is it, or is it the same? I mean, bearing in mind the different production systems that you're going to be in.
I mean the earlier animals we've got, they're definitely high in solids and fat. So they're good in fertility, good in solids. But as we get closer to purebred Holsteins, for example, then the solids composition falls away and the volumes go up. So it kind of depends on the breed, but the early animals certainly have good solids.
When you look at the very different systems that these animals need to perform under overseas, any specific difficulties that you've had to overcome?
It's developing an animal that's going to deliver the right milk outcome for that particular farm and payment method. That's where you start. There's some real diversity in farm systems and payout methods, and trying to customise a bull team to a particular niche is actually quite a lot of work. So, and you keep finding new niches of breeds and crossbreeds that people have gone down and they want a slick version of what they've stabilised on. So it's a bit of a moving feast of developing the product for the niche markets that we see around the world.
Can you give me an idea of what those, perhaps one of those niches?
Well, as an example, in the US, they've got a breed called a Hojo, which is a cross between an American Holstein and an American Jersey, and that's quite often used in their regions of high heat stress. So we need to create a slick one of those.
Right.
So all the time we're seeing new niches, and we've now got enough genetic diversity in our breeding nucleus that we can develop the bulls that'll fit those niches.
What about markets that perhaps might favour volume over solids, for example?
That's always been high on our priority list is when we're breeding. The dam side, we've always gone for volume, so rather than biasing it towards a New Zealand breeding worth, we've gone for high volume cows, so that acknowledging that these genetics are destined for fluid milk markets.
Hey Derek, looking forward to hearing how that data keeps coming in. Good luck with it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Roger.
This interview was brought to you in association with Rabobank.